All right, welcome to the Distant Swishing Special Edition NFL Mock Draft Podcast. This is our number 10 podcast, so I'll hit double digits, but we'll count that one for next time we do, which could be in a couple of days. So this one's specifically just for Thursday night's first round NFL draft. Myself and Joe. Joe, say hi.
What's up?
We're going to now alternate picks between the 32 NFL teams in the first round, and we're going to put our Todd McShay, Mel Kiper hats on and trying to give you a fun idea of what we think will happen, not what we want to happen. It's what we think will happen, and this is our best guess at that. We won't do any trades because I think if you mock trades in the first round, you're an idiot because you can't predict what doesn't happen.
However, I read a statistic the other day that 30-something%. I don't remember the figure off the top of my head.
Perfect.
I think it was like 32%. It was somewhere in that ballpark of teams have actually not kept their first-round pick in the last 5 years.
Well,
which is amazing to think about it. But, I mean, that's why we're also not mocking trades, too, because it's just way too hard to actually predict which trades are going to happen.
Right. And I was going to get into that right now before we start it up and just to say, I want to see if you have any comments on this. I mean, this year I feel like more than other years past have there have been so many trade rumors going around, whether it's the Phil Rivers to the Titans and Mariota going to either them or the Redskins or the Browns or the Jets. Just so many different rumors with that. And today there's the Muhammad Wilkerson trade rumors, and then then the guys like Shane Ray and Randy Gregory who got caught with marijuana, like they're sliding. So someone can move up for them? I feel like this year more than any year, there's been a ton of trade rumors. So do you think there will be a trade that will happen, or something we should keep an eye out for?
I don't think Rivers is going to get traded, only because very rarely do you see a franchise caliber quarterback of that stature get traded. Rivers is that organization. He's been there. He's at that stage in his career where he's 33 years old. So if he's going to be dealt, it's going to be a massive overpayment to San Diego because he means a lot to that community too. And at this point, if you do trade Phillip Rivers, you're going to have to get a quarterback, in return in some way. And I see only two quarterbacks in this year who should be first-round picks, and they're most likely going to go the first two overall. So unless San Diego finds a way to land the second overall pick from Tennessee, I just don't see a match there.
I don't get the whole point of that. I don't see Tennessee being more than a 500 team with Rivers, and I see the Chargers obviously taking a huge slide with that trade if they go through with that. So, I mean, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I thought the Muhammad Wilkerson rumors was insane because, 25-year-old, one of the best linemen in the league. Don't say the Jets could trade him. But
that would be more because of salary cap purposes.
Right,
but I mean, even then, they'll get the deal done because he's your franchise guy, and you get your all franchise players.
Out of all the
mostly
Schefter
every franchise
did say
players.
that the Jets are not interested in trading the Jets. I mean, he said the Chargers, are not interested in trading Rivers. But obviously, you do listen to offers. If some team gives you a boatload, you have to obviously think, okay, maybe we'll do this. But anyway, so I guess that's we don't want to keep too much time and get off topic here. So let's get right to the thick of things in the drafts. Like I said, I'm doing the odd picks, mainly so I could hit on the Giants pick. I'm picking 9. I'm a Giants fan. Joe, Jet fan. They're picking 6. He'll take the even picks. We'll alternate between the two. Again, this is what we believe will happen, not what we want to happen, or our dumb predictions. It's just from research of reading all the different insiders and what we think will play out. Again, no trades. And if I forget to say this at the end of the podcast, we will try our podcast hopefully Friday to hit on the second round of the NHL playoffs, maybe by then the NBA playoffs, preview the fight, preview the Kentucky Derby, all that good stuff. So we'll try to do that tomorrow and get that podcast out for, I guess, either Friday night or Saturday. This podcast will be up before the draft, which is Thursday night, and runs all the way till Sunday, I believe.
Yes.
Sunday?
No, Saturday. I'm sorry. Saturday afternoon.
Which is the greatest sports day in
May 2nd is going to be the apocalypse because it's just phenomenal.
The apocalypse in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Thursday, April 30th is the first round. That'll be televised. Friday is the second and third rounds, and then Saturday will be rounds 4 through 7,
right?
Which will finish up in the late afternoon.
And again, follow us on DNS_podcast to see all of our picks that we're making now. Joe will live tweet them as we go along. Our domain name is now just dishandandswishing.com. We bought it, no longer dishandswishing.podcast.wordpress.com.
Love it.
So
phenomenal. Fantastic.
Yeah, so we're making some progress here. Hopefully on iTunes soon. Now, anyway, for that long introduction, Let's start with the draft. So this is not really that much of a surprise, even though he's not signed to a contract. First pick, Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Florida State quarterback Jameis Winston. That's
Hooray,
not yeah, you know. I mean, he's not signed like like the Jake Long in the past or whoever it was, but Matt Ryan. But what it is, what it is. They're going to take him. Need a quarterback. That's whatever. You're up.
Yeah, okay. Tennessee picking 2. Ken Wisenhunt on the hot seat after just one season in Tennessee. They were really bad last year. So there were rumors that they were going to stick with Mettenberger this season, Zach Mettenberger out of LSU. And to me, I think that's crazy because I think they're going to be too dumb to pass up on Marcus Mariota, even though he's not really an ideal fit with Wisenhunt. So I think that Wisenhunt's going to want to keep his job, and I think he'll find other places to fix the defense. So with the second overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select quarterback Marcus Mariota from Oregon.
Right. Well, I think that's when the draft starts to get interesting too, because no one really knows what exactly will happen with that pick, whether it will be traded, will they go D-line, will they go maybe pass rush or something else instead of Mariota. So that's Joey had the most interesting pick. So now you start to see the draft shape up. Mariota is off the board. Winston's off the board. Top 2 quarterbacks are gone. Third pick now goes to Jacksonville Jaguars. They have their quarterback, I guess, in Blake Bortles. We'll see what happens with his development. They're an interesting team as well. You were just saying this before the draft. They can go receiver. They can go D-line. They can go pass rusher. I saw this report come out saying how last year they shocked everyone by taking Bortles. Maybe they'll go the unconventional route again. Most people have them taking either Leonard Williams or Dante Fowler Jr. I'm going to have them taking Amari Cooper.
Whoa!
Because I don't.
You're not crazy.
I'm not crazy.
Because Peter King has Amari Cooper going to Jacksonville, so obviously he must know something there.
Yahoo said something similar too. There's a lot of scouts and people who think that they're not. They give kind of like these smoke screens.
I agree with that 100%, and I think that they know that Bortles is going to need a number 1 target. And
they have receivers, but they have Lee and Robinson and Hearn. They're not number 1s.
No, they're not number 1. The whole situation with Justin Blackman just became a mess.
It's
a mess. So I can't expect Blackman to play for Jacksonville at any time soon. They may be looking on to move on from him sooner. So I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. I think it's ballsy. I think it's bold, but I think it could work a lot. So once I reestablish my connection, we'll be able to live tweet all this.
This is great.
Yeah. Thanks to your house. But now
I'm connected on 2 computers. So
yeah, dual computers. I'm just trying to get one to work over here. So for the Oakland Raiders.
Yep.
Last year, they hit home runs with their first 2 picks with Khalil Mack and Derek Carr.
Big time.
Carr looked much better as the season went on, and Khalil Mack looks like a franchise player, and he looks like somebody that the Texans are going to regret not drafting in years' time if Clowney doesn't get his injury situation in order. So I was going to take Cooper for the Raiders at 4, so now you kind of messed me up a little bit.
I think he's the target they really want, but I think, and they know that. Once Cooper is taken 3, they kind of start to the receivers will start to go off the board. I think so. I see them making a splash. I think Bortles needs his guy. That's the reason why I took him 3. And I do believe in what they said. All these scouts and the other higher ups think that the Jaguars put out the smoke screen. They're not going to take a pass rusher or a D-line. They're going to take some guy to help Bortles out if he has the future. They have a good receiving core. They have no number 1. They're taking him. I think that right now the Raiders can go a number of different ways.
I think they can go a number of different ways, too. Ideally, I think they want a receiver for Carr.
Big time.
However, just like last year, this class of wide receivers is very deep. It goes about 10 or 12 deep in the first 2 rounds, and the Raiders are going to be picking high early in the second round. So they'll either wait for a receiver then, or they'll trade up a couple of spots and get somebody if they really, really like somebody that falls. So I think they'd be criminally stupid, especially after hiring defensive-oriented former defensive coordinator of the Broncos, Jack Del Rio, as their head coach. So I think they'll happily settle for the best defensive player in the draft in Leonard Williams at 4 from USC. So we'll make that pick official.
All right, so Williams going 4. Next up on our mock draft, Washington Redskins pick 5. Very interesting team because they have RG3, who you normally would think is their starting quarterback. People are not sure about that. with Mariota gone and Winston gone, obviously they're not going to take another quarterback. There's no quarterback really in this area you could take besides those two. I think, I mean, they're in my opinion, they're the worst team in the NFC East. They have a lot of different holes they need to fill. With this pick, I mean, a lot of people haven't taken the top pass rusher. I think when you take Leonard Williams is gone, I think it's a no-brainer. They have to take Dante Fowler Jr. A lot of mocks have been taking Beasley and Ray. So with Fowler,
I think they're incredibly ecstatic that Fowler's sitting there at 5.
Right.
Because I think Fowler is one of the 4 best players in the draft.
Sure. I mean,
I really did.
Yeah, pass rusher from Florida. He falls right into their lap. They get the better pass rusher because most people had Fowler going either 3 or 4 or possibly 2. So now they have him falling right into their laps, a guy they need desperately. So if they're not taking receiver, pass rusher, I think probably O-lines are next best way to go. So that they have what most people consider the top pass rusher in the draft, Dante Fowler Jr., going to the Redskins at 5. And now is the Jets.
Now here's the worst case scenario because Cooper's off the board and Dante Fowler doesn't make it to 6. So what do the Jets do? They could very easily take Mariota if he falls, but in this case, he's gone at 2. Mm-hmm. So do they trade back? We can't trade back because we don't have mock trades. So I think if this scenario happens, which I think is going to be very, very likely, I think the 5 players that we pick will be gone by the time that the Jets pick on draft day. I don't know if they're going to be gone to the teams that we gave them picks-wise. So I think if you look at this, I wrote about this for the website. If Mariota's there, he's going to be slam dunk to pick because I don't think this regime is sold on Geno Smith.
No,
he's from the Idzik era, which was a disaster at the very end. So if he's not there, they'll move on to their next need, which is right now. I would say that their offense is in okay shape. With the Marshall trade, they have Decker, they have Curley, they have second-round pick Jason Morrow, who's entering his second season. Running backs, they always seem to be okay with. Their line always kind of stays healthy, even though they probably need a tackle somewhere. I wouldn't take a tackle at 6. I don't think there's anybody value-wise on the board who makes sense. So now we'll go to the defense. Wilkerson has been involved in trade rumors. I don't believe any of them for a second. I think he's our franchise guy on the defense. He's our heart and soul leader with Sheldon Richardson, and you don't trade players like that. So now we'll move to the outside, and we'll move to a guy who hasn't really necessarily lived up to his billing, and that's Quentin Coples. So this is the make-or-break year for Quentin Coples. And if this scenario plays out on draft day, I think the Jets will take a pass rusher at 6. And I think they're going to shock everybody with this selection because obviously we mentioned his name before. He recently got busted for marijuana possession. But I think the second best pass rusher in the draft is Shane Ray from Missouri. I don't think you ignore his success, especially in Missouri. They made 2 straight SEC championship games, and he was arguably the best player on that defense on each team. Mm-hmm. I think he fits in as a perfect 3-4 pass rusher, and he's somebody that Todd Bowles, who blitzes a ton, will be able to use a lot. So I look at this pick kind of like a Bruce Irvin kind of selection with Seattle, where you need a pass rusher. So I think if Coples doesn't really pan out this year, or doesn't take the next step, the next way to go is to replace him with Ray and then let Coples walk in free agency. So this might be a little high for him, according to how you feel about him, but the New York Jets will select Shane Ray at 6.
I don't think that he'll drop that much. I think teams are getting over the whole, all right, the guy a lot, because back to the matter is a lot of players in the NFL and NCAA screw up. That's just the league they're in. Every other day, you're seeing them with some kind of infraction. I think teams are just saying, okay, if the guy literally is not Aaron Hernandez and didn't kill a guy, we'll straighten him out. We'll have a guy follow him. We'll have him in this mentoring program, whatever. They're gonna have a guy follow him around and make him a better human being, a better football player, and not let him go off the rails again. So I don't think teams are gonna get that crazy over the whole red flag, quote unquote, thing they give players. I know there are teams like the Giants who won't touch players like that. The Jets, I don't think, are as strict. Some teams align with the Jets. Some teams align with the whole, maybe like the Patriots, Steelers, Giants philosophy of things. So I definitely think that that this won't really hurt Shane Ray that much. I do agree with that pick, and I think right now picking 7, Buffalo, the Chicago Bears. they get the guy that most people have going to mock to them. The Jets stole their receiver, or they actually got in a trade, got Brandon Marshall. Laser spot him for this guy, Kevin White from West Virginia, the next best receiver. Some people have him as number one. Mayock does. I think Cooper is better. White's more of a combine freak, a guy who's very fast, but he's also quite physical. Is a great physical specimen, big guy. He'll fit nicely across from Alshon Jeffrey and give. I mean, this is going to be Jay Cutler's one last shot. If he doesn't do it here, I think it's pretty much all said and done for him. So, really easy home run pick here for the Bears. They're going to take Kevin White.
It's an interesting pick. I would mock the Bear if I was in your position. I would have mocked them a pass rusher, to be honest. But I mean, I totally see it. I'm not arguing the pick at all.
If you look at most mocks have them taking a receiver.
A receiver, yeah, with the Marshall thing. But I don't know. It just seems a little strange to me. A little strange.
I understand because you have a decent number one. You have other, but I mean, McShay has Kevin White there. And on the TV one he did, I know Walter Football does. SB Nation has him taking a receiver. It's Cooper. That's not going to happen. So there are people that have, do have him going there. But I know it's either a pass rusher or a receiver. I think they'll go with the sexy pick. So I think they're going to go with.
Now we move on to Atlanta at 8. Their absolute number one need is definitely pass rusher, and this works out where the next two players on Mayock's big board are, well, actually, that's a lie. He's got Dupree a little bit lower. But I am going to give them a pass rusher, and I'm going to give them the guy who I think fits better as a defensive end at the NFL level for their scheme, who is Bud Dupree out of Kentucky. I think Vic Beasley is going to be a great player, but I think he's more of a fit for a 3-4 than a 4-3.
I think he might slide a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be concerned with his. He's had a lot of strength issues. That's his biggest knock. Will he be able to get by tackles, and will he be able to play like that in at the next level? So the Atlanta picking 8, they need a defensive end, and Dupree is the pick.
All right, and that leaves me at 9 with the Giants. The two New York teams we're focused on. Drew gave a big speech about the Jets. The Giants, I think the Giants come down to is that most mocks, 99% of the mocks recently, up until recently actually, you saw the Giants taking Brandon Sheriff from Iowa, the guard tackle hybrid. I think that's a pick the Giants desperately need. I think it's a pick that fits them the most. He's the best O-lineman on the board. Giants got a crack at him. It makes almost too much sense, which is exactly the reason why I don't think the Giants are going to do it. Because Jerry Reese never does the conventional thing. Giants need a linebacker. They don't take a linebacker. Giants need, whatever. They always draft, either it's BPA or the position that they have. It's like the rich get richer. If they don't need D-line, they'll take D-line. If they don't need a receiver, they'll take a receiver. I'm hoping almost that neither White or Cooper are on the board because I feel like the Giants will take him. I know McShay recently has him taking Todd Gurley. I don't think running back is a concern with the Giants. You just signed Shane Vereen. You have Andre Williams. You have Rashad Jennings. I don't get that. Why have 4 people in the backfield? It's just way too crowded. Those 3 can get the job done. I think actually their backfield is pretty good, and each of them fill a separate need the Giants have. You have Williams the runner, you have Vereen the pass catcher, and you have Rashad Jennings, who's when healthy is a mix of both. Pass rusher or D lineman. I mean, if Leonard Williams is there, take him. Great. He was not there. I don't want to deal with it. According to our mock, when you have Fowler and you have White and you have Dupree gone. Fowler, Ray, and Dupree gone. And I don't think the Giants will reach for Vic Beasley, who is sliding. The pick to me is Sheriff. I'm going to say Sheriff, but
the most unsexy pick ever. And as we're watching the draft, I can totally see everybody starting to complain.
No, but I'm not. I don't think so because I think most people realize that Eli needs a guy to protect him, and I think people are okay with Sheriff. According to reading, Giants fans on Twitter and this and that, other blogs and stuff. People want Sheriff. People want a guy who not, they'll help Eli not be on his butt the whole entire season. Eli has the weapons now. If Cruz comes back healthy, you have Randall, you have Cruz, you have Odell Beckham, who's going to take over the league. I just went through the running backs, and you have 3 capable guys. You get Eli a guy to protect him. With Pugh last year, they took him and 2 years ago, and he's better suited at guard. You have a good guard tackle combo, and Sheriff and Pugh on one side. I mean, I think that's a good half of a line right there if you pair them together, and that's going to help Eli out. So I think if Giants fans, they say it's not a good pick, it's not a fun pick to watch because the guy isn't touching the ball. Well, you know what? the game is built in the trenches. This pick makes the most sense, which is why I think Jerry Reese won't do it. that's just what's Jerry Reese is his own way.
Yes, he does have his
usually
own
works
way.
out. So I mean, I trust Jerry, but I don't think if this pick happens, I'll be shocked.
Okay. Well, this is our draft, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly.
This is okay. St. Louis at 10. Their biggest need, offensive lineman. You just took the best one on the board.
Right.
So now maybe we can get a little creative. They do need a wide receiver, but at the same time, the two best are gone. I don't know if they're willing to wait. They're probably better off waiting to their second round pick to get a receiver. So I'm going to mock them, who I believe to be the second best offensive lineman in the draft, and that's Andres Pete of Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could step in and either play right tackle immediately. I don't know if they'll start him at left tackle immediately, but he could definitely come in and plug in and play him at right. So automatically he's an upgrade on the line, and that is a line that desperately needs upgrading. They lost Jake Long now, so they also lost Joseph Barksdale. The Rams are very, 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 very close to contending. I think the Nick Foles move was a shrewd move. I think they're ready to take that next step to win 10, 11 games this year and probably be a playoff team. So this is a very safe pick, again, like the Giants pick. And it's a very unsexy pick, but Jeff Fisher likes to run the ball, and I think he's got a good runner in Trey Mason. So I think this pick makes a lot of sense. So with the 10th pick, the Rams select Andres Pete of Stanford.
Yeah, it's a good pick. A lot of people have him mocked there. I know Walter does too. I think he could be the better tackle if you're going to compare him to Scherf, who might be a better guard because of his strength and just what he's better in terms of run blocking. So that's a good pick for them. They need that help. They've been kind of off with those recent. I know they took what's his name, Jason. So who's the number 2 pick overall? They took the O-lineman out of Baylor,
Jason Smith,
right? Yeah, who obviously didn't really pan out for them. So I think that's a good pick.
They've also taken Greg Robinson in recent years. They've had a lot of trouble just finding a guy at the top of the draft who could play line.
Right.
So
all right, so now we're outside of the top 10, 11th pick, Minnesota Vikings. A lot of people here have them taking...
This is a very interesting pick because I think the Vikings are on the rise and they could do a lot with this pick.
Right. A lot of people have them taking the top cornerback, Trey Waynes. That makes a lot of sense. I think them having taking a receiver here makes a lot of sense too. I'm not sure if I'm a Vikings fan. I don't want to be that team... The way I think this draft is that there's a gap between the top 2 guys and the rest of the receivers. I think there's actually a gap between Cooper and White, and then there's a gap between Parker and Green-Beckham and all the rest of the guys on the list. Most people, like you said earlier, this draft is deep at receiver, a ton of good guys. But I feel like they don't want to be the team that takes the next receiver. Another thing playing into this is Adrian Peterson. We talked about a lot of trades happening. Didn't mention Peterson's name. I think that they said today they don't want to trade him. I don't think Peterson wants to play in Minnesota anymore. I think a trade will happen, or they know a trade will be on the move soon. And if no one's touching, if no one took Gordon, no one took Gurley in the top 10, and they're still there, I think they're going to go after a guy named Todd Gurley. And take him, and
boy!
And that frees them to move Peterson now and not feel guilty about it because they'll have their next running back. They'll have a guy who has been compared to Peterson in terms of a can't miss running back. If this guy didn't have the knee injury and played at Georgia all last year, we're talking about top 3 to 5 pick.
Yeah, I think when you injure yourself that early in the game, he's still very, very young. And when you look at Peterson broke his collarbone before he was drafted too. So the Vikings have been in the same situation before. I like this pick a lot. I think it makes sense, and I think it makes sense.
You know what?
A trade to Dallas or Arizona now, if they take early, would make
so much
sense.
easier, and they get rid of that whole headache is gone now. The whole Peterson saga is over with. They don't have to worry about, like you said, they're on a team on the rise. They have a quarterback that they believe in. They can finally move up. They did trade for Mike Wallace. They do have a receiver. They do have Cordarrelle Patterson, who did not have a great year at all by any means last year. But there are ways to you could use him in the game, whether it's end arounds, handoffs, trick stuff with him. They have playmakers. Get rid of Peterson. Get rid of the whole baggage issues that you have to deal with him. Get this guy in Todd Gurley, who's a great person by all accounts, who could be a star. I think he could be a star. He does everything right. He's not going to be a bust like Trey mentioned. He's going to be the real deal guy. I think this pick makes too much sense. You have to go running back over cornerback and receiver. So Todd Gurley from Georgia will be Minnesota Viking.
Boom. I guess that's our first real shock in the draft.
Well, I think
that.
I think 3. I think I did 2 bigger shocks. The Cooper and Gurley draft. It's a shock, but it does make it's very logical. If the Vikings want to get rid of that whole, they want to move on and get past the whole. Peterson was great. He was probably your friend for one of the best players, if not the best player. You have to move on. It's just time to move on.
Now we're at 12 for Cleveland.
We are.
Perpetual losers. They're in a little bit of trouble. Josh Gordon's not going to be with them for next season.
Right.
They re-signed Jordan Cameron though, so that kind of eased the blow a little bit. But they really don't have too much to work with on the outside.
No.
They don't have a quarterback on the roster either, depending on how you feel about Manziel. I like Manziel, but
So do I.
yeah, but I don't know if he's going to end up developing properly, because I think he was the kind of guy who needed to sit and learn for a year or two. And we looked at the Hoyer situation, not really ideal right now. They've had a consistently solid defense for the last couple of years, so I think that they'll go with for the offensive side of the ball with this pick.
I agree.
And I think obviously they need a number one wide receiver desperately in the wake of the Gordon suspension. So I have them taking Louisville wide receiver Devontae Parker at 12. I think this is a good fit, and this if Manziel should start, I mean, he's been in rehab now. Well, he's out of rehab now, but he was in rehab during the offseason. So depending on how you feel about him, they're going to have to start him and see what they have at quarterback. Right. And if they start him, they're going to need to help him. So I like Parker a lot. I think he's clear-cut the third best receiver in the draft. So with the 12th pick, Cleveland selects Devontae Parker.
And that screws up things for the next pick in the draft, who I'm picking for the New Orleans Saints. What a crazy offseason for them. Moving Graham, moving Kenny Stills, move Ben Grubbs. A lot of their guys are gone. They expect big things out of Brandon Cooks. They have Drew Brees still, and number 9, you're going to be okay, but you don't give them that many weapons. So I think at this point they're saying, okay, wow, well, the Vikings passed on Parker, maybe we'll have a shot at him, and then boom, the next pick, Brown take him. I think Devontae Parker, if there, will be the pick for them. I'm not sure if they want to reach for the next guy. I'm not sure who you would have as the next best receiver. I mean, there's a couple different ways. I don't think it's Green-Beckham. They could take Perriman.
Yeah, Green-Beckham has kind of like fallen off, not the grid a little bit. I mean, Mayock still has him as the 31st best player, but I think his size, his intangibles, I think he's going to end up being a top 15, 20 player from this draft.
Oh yeah, if you subtract the off the field issues, the guy's he's a stud. He's everything you want in a receiver physically. I'm not sure they're going to take Perriman, who's been the guy with the speed, and everyone's going wow at the combine for and his pro day. So I think if they're not going to take a receiver, I like them going. They have Junior Gillette as a good pass rusher. They have Rob Ryan still. He probably wants more toys. They did sign Brandon Brown. If they didn't sign Brandon Brown, I would say they'd take Trey Waynes too, who is now sliding this draft. You can consider him sliding because he should have been taken already. If Vic Beasley was not taken yet, I think they can go Vic Beasley and pair him with Junior Gillette. Have 2 elite pass rushers. Rob Ryan wants to blitz, and
right.
He is the basis of my pick. I think he'll be in the ear of the GM and the owner. Anyone who he could yell at. He'll say, "Give me this other pass rusher. Give me a couple toys to play with." At least revamp that New Orleans Saints defense, which has not been very good for years. So Vic Beasley slides a bit, not out of the first round like other people say. I think that the Saints will fall in love with a guy they could pair up with Gillette. So I want to go Vic Beasley to the New Orleans Saints at pick number 13.
I like this pick. Makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
At 14, I'm picking for the Dolphins, and I'm going to give them the worst player on the board because I hate them.
You need to be nice to Goose. Yeah.
Goose is not going to like this pick at all, but they could very well go in a number of different directions. They need a wide receiver to play opposite Jarvis Landry because they traded Mike Wallace to Minnesota. They could always use a running back. A lot of offensive help. They could always take a running back. They could always take another lineman, even though they took a lineman last year. Deion Jordan was just suspended. Breaking news today. So
right.
they're going to be hurting a little bit on the edge. Their secondary is starting to age a little bit. Their only really good corner is Brent Grimes, and he's going to be 32. So ideally, competing in the AFC East, they need to think about long term. They signed Sue to be a pillar up front. Their defensive line is always a strength of the team. They're always good at getting to the passer. And last year, their secondary was good. However, I think their biggest weak spot is cornerback. And you really wonder how much longer you can trust Brent Grimes because, he had an ACL injury back a couple of years ago.
Right.
So anticipating for the future, a player who Mayock rates very highly, who's right now falling a little bit, I have Miami taking cornerback Trey Waynes from Michigan State with the 7th overall pick. I think in recent years we've seen Michigan players...
14, not 7, 14.
Well, it's 14th. Mayock has him 7th overall.
Sorry, okay.
The Dolphins pick 14th. In recent years, we've seen a bunch of players from Michigan State, most recently Le'Veon Bell, being NFL ready immediately. I think this. Who's the cornerback that went last year from Michigan State? He fell a little bit. I forgot his name. Uh-oh.
I know you're talking about too.
Damn it! All right. We're gonna research this. Anyway, they had an NFL draft ready cornerback last year. I think Waynes is better than whoever I'm thinking of, and I can't believe I don't remember his name.
I watched the whole draft too.
This is the drawback to being so sports oriented. It's you can't remember small stuff like this. But anyway, I think Miami may very well move on from Brent Grimes after the season is over, and I think that Waynes has the Yes, there we go. Boom, Marquise Denard. He went to Cincinnati, right?
Did he go to Cincinnati?
Did he? Could be wrong. I thought you just Googled it.
Yeah, I Googled. Yeah, he plays on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes. Ta-da! All right, I was right. Okay, so I had the team, just couldn't remember the player. Anyway, I think Wayne's is a better cover guy. I think he's big, he's strong, and he's somebody that Miami will be very happy to replace Grimes with once they move on from him. So with the 14th pick, sorry Goose, I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but the Miami Dolphins select Trey Waynes from Michigan State. That was probably our longest rant of the draft.
Yeah, we'll speed this up because we're in the middle of rounds now, so we'll speed this up. I know that I would have taken Waynes with this pick if he was still there. I think the Dolphins could have went one of two ways. Take another defensive end, outside linebacker from Oregon. But they won't do that again after Deion Jordan. I think if Eric Armstead falls in the lap of the San Francisco 49ers, who lost Ray McDonald, Justin Smith might retire. Those two defensive ends they don't have anymore. I think Armstead could play at the defensive end outside linebacker spot. You could pair him off with Alvin Smith if you need to as well. They definitely need help on the defensive side. Also lost, Patrick Willis and Chris Borland. So they took a lot of hits. They could go receiver here. They could go online. But I think, like I just said, after all those losses on the defensive side of the ball, go with Eric Armstead, defensive end outside linebacker from Oregon. So it's a pretty easy pick for the number 15 overall selection, San Francisco 49ers. They take Armstead.
The 49ers are our team that's going to fall off a cliff this season.
Yep, big time.
Big time.
Yeah.
I think they're going to struggle to get 6 or 7 wins. Depending on how you feel, that's probably not falling off a cliff considering they were 8-8 this year, but by NFC West standards, that's falling off a cliff. All right, we're at Houston at 16. They lost Andre Johnson in the offseason. They have DeAndre Hopkins, though, so he can kind of pick up the slack a little bit. But if you're looking at their team, their number one draft need is clearly wide receiver, and every single mock draft under the sun has them taking a wide receiver. So I have them taking the guy who is currently rising up draft boards. I think his value and his stock is at an all-time high, and usually players like this end up going this high. So I have them taking Central Florida wide receiver Brashad Perriman with the 16th overall pick. I think his size is a good matchup. Mm-hmm. It's a good fit opposite Hopkins, who's more of like that elusive playmaking type of receiver. So very easy pick.
17, San Diego Chargers. A lot of talk around Phillip Rivers, obviously. So if they keep him, are they going to use this pick to protect him? Are they going to use the pick to help him throw the ball to somebody? They're going to help him have somebody hand the ball off too. I think those are probably the three ways they'll go. They could go defensive side of the ball. I think there's one guy we haven't mentioned yet who plays the interior part of the line who could go in this spot, Danny Shelton, who is sliding a bit in our draft. But I think that with the loss of Ryan Matthews, they're going to want a guy that they can rely on to help Rivers out in every way in the passing game and in the running game. I'm weary of Big Ten running backs, but I think with Gurley already going, I think they'll take Melvin Gordon and take a guy who could just help make this. The Chargers could be a decent team in the AFC West with more help, more skill position guys around Rivers because I think he's a very talented quarterback. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon. If they do, however, keep another pick with the Nationals, if they do keep Rivers, I think the pick is Melvin Gordon. So I want to go with Melvin Gordon at 17.
I like that pick a lot. I think Gordon's going to be an excellent pro. I think he's a very strong running back. I think a lot of people see him as what we saw Monte Ball was a couple years ago, even though he fell. But I think Gordon is way, way more dynamic than Monte Ball projected to be. All right, 18th, we got Kansas City. Another team that needs a wide receiver. Another team that could use help a little bit everywhere. But they signed Jeremy Maclin in the offseason, so I think Andy Reid is kind of fine going into the next season with Charles. They have Maclin now. They have Travis Kelce, tight end, who really came on at times last season. So they could really use help everywhere. I'm looking on NFL.com. One guy has him taking Malcolm Brown from Texas. Another guy has him taking Cameron Irving from Florida, the center from Florida State. In our draft, Andres Peter's gone. In our draft, Trey Waynes is gone. So they could really go in a number of different directions. However, I think that in order to get the most out of Alex Smith, they're going to have to surround him with another receiver. And I think this year in particular, the AFC West is kind of more wide open than it has been in years past because we really don't know how good Peyton Manning is going to be. I mean, he's still going to be good, but we don't know if he's going to be Peyton Manning levels of great coming off of last season. I think Oakland is still kind of on the rise a little bit. I think they're another year away from really being a division contender. And when you look at San Diego amidst all the trade rumors, they're a good team, but they may very well at any time, they're a perpetually underachieving team. So Kansas City has made a couple of pushes in the last couple of years to win the AFC West and make some wild card appearances. I think Alex Smith is a good quarterback. They have a good defense. So I think they team up Maclin by taking another receiver. And here's where I'm going to mock Dorial Green-Beckham because I think he's a freak of nature. And I think if no team takes him in the top 20, it's a mistake.
I'm with you.
I absolutely love this.
I think it's a great pick. And you had the Browns. Didn't you have the Browns earlier taking a receiver?
I had Devontae Parker at 12. Yes.
So I think this works out perfect for them. I think a guy who's still could at this point in the draft could be BPA, and it's a need for them. They definitely need a guy who plays the interior line or nose tackle. Is Danny Shelton. So I think with what pick is this now? 19? 19. The 19th pick. They get Devontae Parker, and they get to help out whoever the quarterback is. Manziel, whoever. That's a big need. I think the other biggest need will be taking interior defensive line. So taking Danny Shelton for them. They hit 2 home runs. The Browns coming out of this draft looking pretty good right now. So I think that's an easy pick.
I like that a lot. I think that's an excellent pick. Personally, in my personal mock, I have Shelton going to the Giants because it's the most unsexy Jerry Reese kind of selection ever, but they do need a defensive lineman.
Right.
So the fact that he falls to Cleveland in this situation, they're doing cartwheels. I'm just updating the Twitter right now for anybody who's not following, even though this is not live. You could go check our Twitter, DNS Podcast, to see who we picked. So who is...
Your next pick is 20, is the Eagles.
The Eagles. This is great. I have all the interesting picks.
Another very interesting pick, because they even have that pick because of what happens with the whole Mariota stuff and Chip Kelly being a crazy guy and making all those trades. So
they're another team that I have absolutely no idea what the hell they're going to do. But I will say this. Considering that we have information now that Chip Kelly was looking into trading for Deion Jordan. Deion Jordan went to Oregon, so obviously he's got connections there. But the fact that he was looking to trade into Deion Jordan makes me speculate that they may be trying to get a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. So there's a certain pass rusher who we haven't talked about since the opening of the show, who I feel like could probably go anywhere from 8 to 20. Well, not even. He may even fall to the second round. But Chip Kelly is the new Mad Hatter. No disrespect to Les Miles. He's a nut, and I think he's willing to stick to his guns on his certain convictions. So by going by the logic that they're looking to trade for a pass rusher, I think they'll happily settle on a guy who Kelly probably projects as a top talent in Randy Gregory. I think, all things considering, the Eagles could take a safety. They could take a wide receiver because they lost Maclin. They could do a number of things at this pick. But I feel like there's a happy marriage here somewhere. Can't you see Chip Kelly taking Gregory on draft day?
Oh, yeah.
And then everybody's saying what the hell is going on? So it's kind of a bold move, but I mean, like I said, I'm just going by the whole Deion Jordan rumors because him trading for Jordan, who right now is basically a bust. He's not Vernon Golston level of bust, but he's bad, and he's probably not going to play another down in the NFL.
Probably
not. So, so with the 20th pick, I'm going to make it official. I have Gregory going to Philadelphia. God help the Eagles fans.
A pick from the Bengals, who I think would definitely target a guy like that. If the Bengals do not take a linebacker, a pass rusher they could have used in Gregory, I think that they could look O-line. Their O-line is older. They do have, they have Whitworth and Andre Smith and Eric Winston. They're all in their 30s, though. So we'll see what they do there. I think they could use another rookie O-lineman to potentially play either spot guard if they need to, or learn the tackle position. I think a good player that fits that exact mold would be Lyle Collins from LSU.
Yes, so I like this pick a lot.
So I think 21 Bengals take Lyle Collins from LSU to play a versatile role in their Bengals O-line.
I like that pick a lot. Cincinnati has pretty much nailed the draft the last couple of years.
They have. That is, yes. They have a lot of young homegrown talent. That is totally, a very valid statement.
But they still haven't made the jump in the playoffs because of however you feel about Andy Dalton.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
He's good enough to get you there. Probably not good enough to get you anywhere further.
Take a guy like Collins and maybe you help protect him. And, again, the game is built in the trenches, so better O-line. Look how much the Cowboys blew last year with the O-line they had. So you never know what could happen. I think it's very important.
Okay. Pittsburgh at 22.
See, to me, I think it's a home run pick here. I want to see if you go for it. I think it's a home run
It's a home run pick.
I think.
Speaking about this logically, Pittsburgh's offense was not the problem last year. Their defense was really aging and showed itself in the playoffs against Baltimore, even though Baltimore's offensive talent really isn't the greatest. Troy Polamalu retired. Ike Taylor retired. Their biggest need is in the secondary. I have them taking a cornerback before a safety. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch this. Screw this. I had them taking Marcus Peters, but I think that there's a player on the board who is better than that, and I feel like we're kind of agreeing with each other on this. I have them taking a safety.
Yep.
Is it Landon Collins from Alabama? There we go.
That is the home run pick. Collins goes back to.
I had to think about this for a second, but Pittsburgh values a quarterback, playmaking safety more so than they do corners. I feel like they can find a cornerback anywhere. I had to think. I thought about this pick, and I had them taking Marcus Peters for a while, but I didn't realize that Landon Collins was there on the board, and he's another guy. Mayock does not have him. I mean, he's got him at 31, which is 32, which is a fair ranking, but I think he's much better than that. I think Landon Collins could very easily go in the top 20. I think he may very easily, he could go somewhere to, New Orleans at 13 or Miami at 14. So, I like this pick a lot. I think this is a good fit, and I think Landon Collins is actually an excellent fit in Pittsburgh. So, he's now the pick.
All right. Well, the Browns, the Detroit Lions are next up. I believe this is pick 23, I want to say. They have a few needs here. O-line, obviously, or I think running back is a big, mess. They lost Reggie Bush, and defensive tackle they did get Hoyanada, but they did also lose Farrelly and Sue, the better players, not as on the downslope of his career. So they could go defensive tackle. I think they're not going to go defensive tackle. I think they're going to go O tackle, and they're going to get someone to help protect Stafford, who, the key to their team, obviously, is Stafford to Megatron. That's just what it comes down to. And the best way to keep Matt Stafford nice and happy and throwing a lot of touchdown passes is to pick a guy to protect him. The top tier tackles are gone, I think. In my opinion, the next best guy would probably be Eric Flowers from Miami. I know there's DJ Humphries as well. So I think Eric Flowers from Miami will be the next pick for them. That you put him and Riley Rife at the bookends, and I think that's a pretty good start to an O-line right there. So the 23rd pick, Detroit Lions take Eric Flowers, tackle from Miami.
Boom. We're really rolling right now.
Yeah,
I like this. I like this a lot. We have, I'm trying to see who the NFL guys took. Yeah. Okay, they have DJ Humphries, Eddie Gould. Okay. You're not that far off. Arizona at 24. Their biggest need is pass rusher, but we have all the good ones who are gone. So I'm trying to think what would be their next best position of need. Maybe cornerback now that Cromartie's gone. Adrian Wilson retired. They're going to need a safety. Offensive line they're okay with. They signed what's his name? Jared Valdir last season to play left tackle.
Yeah. Right.
They've been very, very good. They could very easily go in a number of different directions with this pick. I think that eventually they're going to need to replenish the defensive line, and Arizona in the recent years has been known to just take the best player available, which I think is fair. So another player who's kind of falling a little bit on our draft board just because of fits and needs. I like Malcolm Brown from Texas a lot. I think he makes a lot of sense. And I think he would be a very good replacement. Well, actually, Dan Williams left. I don't think Malcolm Brown projects as a nose, but he could very easily play opposite Callie Campbell's role as 3-4 defensive end, and they're going to need a replacement for Darnell Dockett soon. So it's not the best overall fit. It's not the best, player, maybe position of need for Arizona, but it's a great value pick, and I think that Adam Shine, who talks about them all the time, the Bird Gang, they make picks like this. So I think it's a smart pick.
It's a very smart pick. And I just talked about, the next pick up, Carolina Panthers, who are picking 25. I just talked about DJ Humphries, and I think I'm just going to go right away. That's the pick in this draft. Their left tackle plan right now is Michael Orr, and they have Jonathan Martin as a backup tackle. Orr did sign a big contract with the Titans, and he was cut, so he's struggling as of late. Their other interesting pick, the way they could go another route could be receiver. Everyone's like, why would you pick a receiver? They have Kellen Benjamin. I mean, what is the number one thing you always talk about a receiver? You have a star receiver, one star receiver. What's something that everyone always says? Find another receiver.
Find another play opposite of him.
Play opposite of him.
Right.
And I think that's another way they can go. There are guys like Jalen Strong out there who could be a good fit. But I think right now you want to keep Cam Newton healthy. Guy takes a lot of hits. DJ Humphries is still one of the better tackles in this draft. You get him, plug him in a spot, where Jordan Groves used to play. Maybe move Aura over. And you're building an O-line that's going to help keep your franchise player nice and healthy. So I think DJ Humphries, 25th pick to the Panthers, makes a ton of sense.
DJ Humphries, we have another offensive lineman. You went offensive lineman with Detroit, and you took Eric Flowers, and now you're taking another offensive lineman. So are we going to see an offensive lineman run off the board now? Or?
I think there's a big gap between the O-lineman in this draft. I think you have Sheriff, who's the only surefire top 10 pick.
Right.
And then you have a big drop-off between that. But, when it comes down, again, this game's built in the trenches. They're always going to have value on offensive linemen. And I think you can see Eric Flowers and DJ Humphries go higher in the mid-20s. I think they can go much higher, maybe in the teens, depending on what teams really want, depending on trades that happen, teams moving up and down. Because, obviously, teams will move up and down this race. Right. And we're just not going to predict that. But if they keep staying in their spot, those are the team needs. I think a team that desperately needs O-line, if you had to give a top 5 team that needs an O-lineman, it would be the Carolina Panthers. So I think they're definitely going to look in that direction.
All right. So we got Carolina. They picked 25. Now we're at 26.
Raven.
Baltimore. Very interesting pick here because Baltimore isn't really the team that makes any sexy picks. And I can totally see Baltimore trading down right here. In fact, we can't predict this on draft day, but my trade prediction, if I had a lock in on one team that I think will trade down from their pick, I think it's Baltimore 26. I think they'll find somebody who's looking to move up in the back end of the first round, who's looking to take a pass rusher, an offensive lineman, or a receiver, because those are the three strongest positions in this draft. Okay. But if we have them sticking at 26, obviously they're going to need a receiver. Torrey Smith left for San Francisco in the offseason. Dennis Pitta hurt his hip again, so we have no idea what the tight end situation is going to look like.
Right.
Even though they re-signed Justin Forsett, you don't really know how many good years you can rely on him. So the whole Ray Rice situation, they finally moved on from that. They need another pass catcher, and they desperately need somebody on the outside who can make plays for them. So I'm gonna mock them a player who kind of fell on our board, obviously because of positional needs and other reasoning. I have them taking USC wide receiver Nelson Aguilar. Okay. I think they absolutely desperately need somebody for Joe Flacco to throw to.
Right.
If they don't take a receiver here, they're going to take a receiver with their second pick, with their second round pick. But like I said, I have them moving down. But if they keep this pick, I think it's receiver.
I believe you have 6 receivers already all taken. You have White, Cooper, Parker.
We may have another 2 or 3 go before the end of the first round.
Because that's what happens. Cooper was 3 and starts the whole train. So it definitely started to move that. Now the next pick is the Cowboys. They're picking 27th pick. Yes.
Right.
Dallas Cowboys, the NFC East champs. Very interesting offseason with them. They lost to Marco Murray. Rumored to get Adrian Peterson. They signed Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy 10-game suspension. I think they're one big need. They did draft Morris Claiborne a couple years ago. Has not really worked out. They do need a cornerback. The cornerbacks in this draft are pretty funny. There's not really a consensus number 2 cornerback outside of after Trey Waynes is probably obviously number 1, and then a lot of people like Jalen Collins too. You mentioned Marcus Peters before. Byron Jones from Kendrick is rising, and Kevin Johnson's rose a lot too. I think they're going to take Kevin Johnson from Wake Forest. Most people have him now as a solid number 2 cornerback, not number 2 on the field, but number 2 in the order of cornerbacks off the board. So I think they're going to go defense. They're going to go cornerback. It could be one of the other guys I mentioned, but I think. We don't even have another. Do we have another cornerback off the board?
No, we don't.
He's
I mocked Collins to Pittsburgh
so you took
because
safety,
I took
right,
this.
right.
I went safety
so I
with
think
them.
Kevin Johnson, who is probably mocked to go in the late teens, early 20s, is now going to go 27 to the Cowboys. I think we might be wrong on this type of cornerback's position that a lot of teams want to take. So I'm not sure if that we're going to see cornerbacks wait this long. It's a position of need that most teams want to have. So I think that. A few of these guys will be gone, but Kevin Johnson in our draft to the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 27.
I mean, listen, they're going to need help on defense. I think they're going to need help at pass rusher more, but in this situation, there are two good cornerbacks falling in the draft, and I think this year in particular, I don't see a lot of teams ahead of them looking to take cornerback first and foremost, so they may end up getting the second or third best guy at this spot, which would be fine.
Right.
There's, they may be looking to get defensive end more because of the whole Greg Hardy situation.
Right.
I mean, how could you have not seen that coming?
I know. I didn't think it was going
It
to be
was it was a calculated risk, but at the same time, it was very loosey-goosey. They didn't really do their homework about it. Right. So he suspended the first 10 games of the regular season. So we have Dallas we mocked Kevin Johnson to you. So the next pick will be 28. It will be the Denver Broncos, who really can go a bunch of different directions with this pick. They need offensive line help. So I'm going to give them the best player on my board, which is Cameron Irving of Florida State, their center. He could play center. He could bounce out to guard. They definitely need an interior offensive lineman. They lost Orlando Franklin, too, so they could very well decide to maybe kick him out to the outside. He's versatile enough. I think that was an easy pick. So you're up now with 29 with the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, yeah, another team that also needs. Irving is probably the number 2 interior type lineman. If you consider Brennan Scherf there, for tackles, our top 4 tackles are gone. Unfortunately for the Colts, I think this is probably their biggest need. I know they need probably linebacker, defensive tackle, the front 7 on defense, and they need O-line. I would say is their top needs for the Colts. A lot of those guys were off the board now already. Their mocks, if you look at all different analysts, have them going all over the place. There's not really any consensus on who they're going to go after. I think that TJ Clemmings from Pittsburgh is the other top tackle left from most people who've been number 5 off the board. So I want to go with him. Just based on a need, a position. It's a really positional need. They're not going to go BPA. The Colts are a very good team. They're a Super Bowl contender. What do you do when you're a Super Bowl contender? I mean, yeah, you could say you take the BPA, but they're strange in a way because I think they do have holes, and I think that you don't really trust their defense. They could go defense, but Luck is their main guy. You got to protect Luck. Gazzer Charles had a knee injury last year, so he's iffy guy to have a right tackle spot. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm going to put Cummings, the 29th pick, the Colts.
We got Green Bay at 30, a team that lost in the NFC Championship game in very heartbreaking fashion. Had a 99% chance to win the game with less than 4 minutes remaining. One of the great collapses in NFC playoff history, NFL history too. Green Bay benefits from this draft because I think their biggest need is on the defense. They could very easily pick a linebacker or they could very easily go cornerback. And in this situation, we don't have too many cornerbacks going off the board. I believe we have 2 total right now. We have Trey Waynes, Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, only 2.
So the players right now who fit Green Bay are all cornerbacks. We could very easily give them Marcus Peters. We could very easily give them Jalen Collins. I believe that Jalen Collins was more impressive. So I'm going to give them Jalen Collins at 30. We have Marcus Peters dropping. I don't like that, but it's
that's what I said
mean,
too. I think other quarterbacks will go a little bit. They'll go higher, just because it's a neat position. Tackles always go high. We saw you have 5 or 6 tackles taken. Cornerbacks always go high in the draft, so they will be taken. The 31st pick, the Seattle made the big trade, the Jimmy Graham trade in the offseason. The New Orleans Saints now on that selection. They're picking 31. Earlier in the draft, we had the Saints taking, I believe it was Beasley, I said, right? After the pick after Parker.
Yes.
So they did not
going to New Orleans.
Right. So they did not get their receiver yet. I think that they're going to go receiver here because they didn't take anyone early in the draft. I think a guy who fits this, is right around this area of the draft, I think makes a lot of sense. I like Jalen Strong out of Arizona State. I think he could sneak in the first round. There are other guys around there.
I have Jalen Strong as in the same category as Dorial Green-Beckham.
Right.
I think they're both top 20, 25 players who should probably go higher. I like Beckham more because I like his size a little more, but I think Jalen Strong is just as good. And I think that is definitely a nice fit. Him and Cooks will be dynamic enough for New Orleans that'll their offense alone will keep them in games, even though they're in clear transition mode with the Graham trade.
Yeah, and then you get the wonderful pick of having your arch rival New England Patriots 32nd pick.
This aligns perfectly because they lost their cornerbacks. They need a cornerback. Our best player on the board is a cornerback. To very nicely wrap up a draft that will probably get for low 20 of the 32 picks wrong. I have them taking cornerback Marcus Peters of Washington with the last pick in the first round.
So, like I said, a couple of cornerbacks off the board. You know it's bound to happen. Before we wrap this up, any picks you're surprised did not go in the first round? Maybe a guy that you think might slip in that we did not say.
For the most part, I think we really got everybody. If I'm looking at Mayock's top list. A guy who a lot of people have going in the first round that we don't is Philip Dorsett, who's another wide receiver out of Miami.
Yeah.
One of those wide receivers is going to fall out of the first round. It's just that's just the way it works.
Sure.
His highest player that we don't have drafted, believe it or not, we have his top 28 drafted, which is good. And his 28th best player is Andres Pete, which is very, very odd considering how early we have Pete going.
He's going to go high just because of need
right,
based.
Absolutely, based on need. Mayock's best player that we don't have in the first round is Eddie Goldman, and who's his 29th best player, defensive tackle out of Florida State. His next best player is Demarius Randall, who's safety out of Arizona State, who's at 30. So for the most part, we have his picks pretty much taken care of. Byron Jones is a cornerback from Connecticut. A lot of players has him. Yeah, a lot of mocks have him going in the first round. And then obviously there are more well-known players like Amir Abdullah, the running back from Nebraska, who, if teams see him as a three-down runner, may very well go.
Yeldon as well. I know Yeldon, the guy who can go anywhere from the third round to the first, depending on what team's seeing him.
Right.
No, so there are. I mean, obviously, most drafts. Yeah, looking at Kuiper and McShay and Mayock, we hit on majority of their picks, but obviously they can't predict it as much as we can predict it. We never know what's going to happen with trades and teams going up and down, either player trades or just pick trades alone. So I think we did a pretty damn good job. Like I said, check out DNS Podcast to see all the picks we have. The podcast should be up later today, so you can get yourself ready for the draft in 2 days. Starts at 8 o'clock in Chicago. Thursday night, the first round of the draft. With a lot of sports going on, it's a crazy end of the weekend for sports. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the NBA, NHL playoffs. We will get to you another podcast on Friday. Like I said, we'll cover everything from Derby to the fight to both playoffs. Yankees, Mets, as usual. Other interesting things in baseball. I know there's news with Josh Hamilton, which is interesting. A lot of other crazy stories. So we'll get to all of that. Follow us, Edward L. Murphy on Twitter, Joe _ Calabrese92 on Twitter. DNS Podcast as always. Check out the new site, check out the new logos, check out the pictures we have, the other banners.
We haven't even gotten to the logo yet.
Yeah, the new
we were
going
to say that, but we have a new logo.
Yeah,
my cousin helped us out. It's very professional looking, very neat looking.
Yeah.
I think it really goes well.
Big fan of it. So hopefully you like our mock. It's a little bit shorter than usual, so it gives you up to date on all the news. And thanks for listening. We'll get to iTunes soon, hopefully, and be on the lookout for our next podcast, which will come out Friday or Saturday morning. So a lot of stuff from this week. A couple articles to look out. I know Joe Carlin wrote a good soccer piece. Gene wrote something on, I believe, Josh Hamilton coming out soon. So we have a lot of things to look at. As always, trying to get the best content out to you. So anyway, for Eddie, who picked all the odd picks,
and I'm Joe, who
Joe,
picked all the even picks.
We'll see you again in probably a few days. So look out.